Hello and welcome to this weekend stimulus package update. You guys wanted an update this weekend, so here it is. I didn't think that there was going to be a whole lot to talk about, but boy, was I wrong. There's plenty changing every single day. We have updates with the Paycheck Protection Program, the EIDL grant program, some issues and some potential new funding with both of those, some stimulus portal issues, of course, people getting mailed paper checks even though they weren't supposed to. I'm going to bounce around on these topics, so make sure you tune in for the entire thing so you don't miss what's important exactly for you. And I'm going to get right to it. No subscriber pitch or anything like that. Starting out, printed stimulus checks are actually set to start being sent out next week, which is earlier than expected. So if you're a person who either didn't file your taxes electronically or didn't add an electronic payment option in the stimulus check portal, your paper check should actually be arriving faster than expected. It was originally expected to be like 5 or 6 months before everyone received this, and they wouldn't even start mailing them out until May. And now they're starting next week, which is the 20th. So that's pretty exciting. In some ways, the IRS is ahead of schedule. The biggest issue that we're seeing with all these is they're trying to get things done as quickly as possible, and then things break, people get upset. So I got to applaud them for at least trying to do things as quick as possible. This is a victory especially for the people who checked the status of their stimulus check online and then found that it looked like it was being deposited into either an account you have no idea where it came from or an old account. And basically the protocol with that is, according to IRS, those funds will be returned back to the IRS, and then they'll take those funds and mail you a paper check. And that was really unfortunate for those who that happened to, because it meant, okay, you might have to wait 5 months in order to receive your check. But now that they're sending them out quicker than expected, tentatively, you should be receiving your check much quicker if you're in one of those categories. So I'm really happy for those people who don't have to wait 5 months. On to my first piece of EIDL news. The first loan agreements are actually being sent out. So a few select people were actually sent the loan portal. Not very many, like probably less than 5% of total applicants were sent this loan portal in order to apply for an additional loan above the advance amount. I haven't received any of this, but I know very few people have. There's a YouTuber by the name of Kai Kim who seems to be one of the first people receiving all this information for whatever reason. But that portal had some issues where you had to resubmit documents, but now the final loan documents have actually been sent to this same YouTube user, and these are the basic loan agreement terms on the EIDL loan. This is above the advance amount. So the loan he received was a $15,000 loan at a 3.75 interest rate. That's what we expected there. There's some other terms here that are a little strange and a little unexpected. So the loan will have no payments due for 1 year, which is what we expected. That was great. That actually was bumped up from 6 months, so now it's 1 year. The loan has a 30-year term, which comes out to only $74 per month, which isn't much, but luckily there's no prepayment penalties on this. So if you do get this loan, I wouldn't recommend waiting 30 years to pay it off, because the amount of interest over 30 years is going to be massive. So you can prepay it early. There's no prepayment penalties. No collateral is required unless the loan is over $25,000, in which they're considering you personally liable for the loan. And that's really important. And as a part of his loan application, it was a little bit strange because it said over $25,000, but then in the same loan agreement told him that he will have collateral as part of the same agreement. So how it was written was a little bit weird and was a little concerning to me, where I could see a potential loophole there where you're technically agreeing to put collateral against a loan less than $25,000. So if you do receive that, really look over these documents, because it seemed a little bit strange to me how exactly it was written. As part of the loan, you'll need a request. This is a weird stipulation. As part of the loan, you'll need to request permission from the SBA for any ownership changes. This is kind of a trend here. They're kind of expecting a lot from you and taking a lot of control by giving you this loan. So there's some major concerns. If you were to sell your business, you also have to give the SBA notice. It doesn't say that you need permission, but you have to give them notice. And the loan can only be used for business purposes, and you must keep records for 3 years on what exactly the funds were spent on with this loan. The loan requires you to have a hazard insurance policy also, which is interesting because in most businesses you don't need that. So you might actually have to get a hazard policy if you want to get this loan. And I believe it said that you needed to have a hazard policy that covered 80% of the business's assets. And you have to submit proof of having that hazard policy within 12 months. Now, this is different than a general liability policy as far as I understand it. So it's a little bit weird how this loan is structured. They're requesting a lot of control over your business, and it's a little bit concerning for me. So if you're in a situation where you need this loan, just really scrutinize those loan documents. Let's move on. As I'm sure you're well aware, if you're watching this, the committed money for the EIDL programs and the Paycheck Protection programs has completely evaporated, or at least it's accounted for, all $349 billion. And there's something in the works where they're trying to get an additional $250 billion, but it keeps getting blocked. But we might have some actual positive news here. Chuck Schumer said Democrats and the Trump administration will talk through the weekend about another emergency coronavirus relief bill. So they're working on this through the weekend. And Republicans, like I said, want an additional $250 billion for the Paycheck Protection Program. Democrats are looking for $250 billion more for hospitals, state and local governments. And they're just trying to work out a deal, but from what I read is both sides are saying that there's a good chance that they'll negotiate something, and they're working through the weekend. So I'm hoping that over the next couple days, I'll be able to bring to you guys some really good news and they work out some kind of deal for additional funding. Because we all know that there's so many businesses that need this additional funding right now, and it would do so much good. Small businesses employ 50% of the US workforce, so it only makes sense to make sure they're all supported and have the funding they need to survive this chaotic time. So moving on to some more EIDL grant funding news. I like to keep you guys updated on how many businesses are actually funded. As of today, April 18th, only 5.9% of businesses who applied for the EIDL have actually received funding. And that's unfortunately the same percentage as yesterday, despite having more people enter in the survey on covidloantracker.com. Here's a couple interesting stats. The state with the most EIDL grant applications is California. However, the state with the highest percentage of successful EIDL funding is Missouri. Anecdotally, I'm receiving more and more reports of people who are receiving both EIDL and Paycheck Protection funding, which is great. However, these percentages aren't going up a whole lot. If only 5% of businesses receive funding, I mean, let's even put the bar super low and say only 50% of the businesses who applied actually deserve the funding or are eligible. Only 5.9%. I mean, this is crazy how few have been funded. I'm really hoping that by next week, some things are worked out now that they're not accepting new applicants and they're able to, really work these loans and get, funding out the door. But this money is sitting there. 5.9% is not enough to account for the entire $349 billion. So onto the Paycheck Protection Program, again with news from covidloantracker.com. As of today, with over 16,500 businesses who have been independently surveyed, 5.8% have received funding for their Paycheck Protection loans. Again, this is the exact same percentage as yesterday, despite about 500 additional businesses surveyed. Now remember, these are self-reported numbers, so however the funding, additional businesses won't be funded over the weekend. Additional businesses could potentially report their funding from last weekend over the weekend. So that's why I'm still reporting these numbers, and I'll bring these numbers to you guys tomorrow as well. The state with the most Paycheck Protection applications was California, followed by Texas and Florida. And this was interesting. The states with the highest percentage of Paycheck Protection funding were all Midwestern states in this order. South Dakota, North Dakota, Nebraska, and Montana all had the highest percentage of successful loan applications and funding received through the Paycheck Protection Program. Now, I suspect that this is because those are more rural areas, and in rural areas you're more likely to deal with a small bank. And there are statistics that small banks are the ones responsible for the most successful Paycheck Protection Program loans going through and actually being funded. Most large banks aren't doing very great at it. Chase Bank being the best one who has given the most funding as far as national banks, but local banks blow everyone out of the water in this way. So I'm thinking that's why the Midwest really stands out as far as who's actually received funding. So as you probably already know, moving back to the stimulus checks, there's a major issue that's been popping up over the last few days. Many people have entered in their direct deposit information into the Get My Payment tool, only to check back a day or two later and see that they're now scheduled to be mailed a check. The message typically states, we scheduled your check to be mailed on, this day. We'll mail you a letter with additional information on this payment, and refer to the frequently asked questions page if you have any questions. Well, that doesn't answer a whole lot of questions. So I don't really know what to say about this. I've done a bunch of research on it and I can't find a good answer besides you're gonna be mailed a check. There doesn't appear to be any way that you can reverse this and submit your electronic application later on, or say like, hey, I don't want it to be sent in the mail. The one good thing is I was told that within 15 days, if you've already received your stimulus check, you'll get something in the mail that will allow you to let the IRS know if they did something wrong, if you received the wrong amount or your dependent wasn't on there. So if you haven't received the right amount, you'll at least be able to fix that. But as far as receiving a mailed check, all I've been able to find so far is you're gonna receive a mailed check. So it's not a great answer, but it's not quite as bad. If I can give you a little bit of good news, that you're receiving a mailed check, because now, like I said earlier, it's scheduled to be sent out much sooner. So I saw some people, it says, we're mailing you a check, and some of them said as early as like the 24th of April, it'll be sent in the mail. So you could expect it, early May, which isn't now and is not great, but at least they're sending it. I don't know exactly what to say. I'm going to keep researching this and see if I can find any answers for you guys. But as of right now, I know it's really frustrating and I'll keep searching. So another error message that we keep on seeing is people are still locked out of the payment portal completely, having to wait. It says wait 24 hours and check back, and then you go back in 24 hours and it still says wait 24 hours. It just locks you out, and still people are getting that payment status not available error. There's not really a way to solve this as far as I can find. I'm going to do more digging later on this afternoon and report back tomorrow to see if there's any solutions here. If any of you know anything about it, or if you have news, send it to me, because that would be super helpful. I'm doing all the digging I can. I'm thinking about doing a rundown of the entire frequently asked questions page on the IRS site tomorrow. Let me know if that would be helpful for you guys. I'll do that as a part of my daily update. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.